our entire economic and social model of the past 25 years is basically a Ponzi scheme. Our politicians of both parties have effectively lied to the electorate. The only way to regain the long-term confidence of the markets will be to have a general election. I'm Allister Heath, and once again I am responding to some of the excellent reader comments on my latest article outlining the very real risk that Britain is facing a catastrophic fiscal crisis. We begin this week with a comment from James Conboy. Another "We are all doomed" article. Just as the UK is at last fixing some of the failures of the previous government, many folk actually see these much needed changes as extremely good news. Well, James, you're right, it's another "We are all doomed" article from me, but the reason for that is I've just become extremely pessimistic about the future of the British economy and of British society. I think the financial markets have finally realised that our entire economic and social model of the past 25 years is basically a Ponzi scheme based on ever larger amounts of government debt and too much immigration. The massive increases in tax, the massive increases in public spending, massive increases in regulation, the inability to get anything done in this country, net zero, which has basically destroyed our industry and our energy production. All of these things have come together to trash our economic performance, and we're now only growing at a very, very weak rate every year compared to a much faster rate 25 years ago. All of that together means that the revenues that the government can generate from the economy are very weak. Even if you put up taxes, you're not going to have enough money to meet the other side of the ledger, which is exploding public spending because of an aging population, the fact that the welfare state is totally out of control. None of this makes any sense. And we are therefore careering along to a major fiscal crisis. I don't think this government has done anything to rectify this situation. This is a problem that started in the late 1990s, early 2000s under Labour, and the Conservatives failed to make it better and in many ways made it far worse. And I fear that this government is heading to the rocks, and with it the whole country. The next question is from Jenny Flynn. So Jenny says, "I'm absolutely amazed that the bond market levels haven't caused enormous panic already. The yields are now much higher than when Truss did her thing and all the lefties in the media and Labour had a meltdown. It's going to go pop any day soon." Well, yes, it's deeply strange that everyone was extremely interested in bond market yields under Liz Truss and that nobody seems to care under Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. Clearly, politics and bias are playing a big role here. The situation now, though, is much, much worse. Truss was right. All of her policies about tax were right. The problem was the spending side. Reeves isn't right about anything. Her tax increases are wrong. Her spending increases are a disaster. I fear that there's now a very high chance of a fiscal crisis, of the bond market vigilantes turning against Britain in earnest, forcing up interest rates and making it clear that they demand an emergency budget and large spending cuts and also, unfortunately, tax increases. That's not the way public policy should proceed. We should not be putting ourselves in a situation where the bond markets dictate what we should be doing when it comes to tax and spend. We should be doing that ourselves. And it's a tragedy that this government is too weak to see this and insufficiently economically literate to understand the damage it is causing the economy. The next question is from Ray Sargent. "Panic in the markets will force Starmer into an early election." No, it won't. He will cling on to power to the bitter end. A lot of readers are saying this, and my point is simple. If there is indeed a financial crisis, if the bond markets force massive austerity, if there needs to be maybe an emergency budget with all sorts of other changes to effectively balance a budget in one day, and almost certainly a short-term bitter recession, well, I think under such circumstances, there's just simply no way that even with its massive majority in the House of Commons, that the Labour Party will stick together. You don't become a Labour MP to push through the biggest amount of austerity ever. You don't become a Labour MP to slash the NHS's budget or to slash the state pension or to stop net zero or to cut welfare benefits. That's not why these lefties are in office. Many will just join the new Corbynite party, they'll rebel, they'll revolt, and I think the whole thing will unravel very quickly, and the only way to regain the long-term confidence of the markets will be to have a general election and a new government. The next question is from Nicholas Maddox. Our politicians over the last 30 years haven't had to make any really hard decisions because they were able to hide under the skirt of the EU. They've also built a system of quangos to hide behind domestically. None of them can take responsibility or make decisions because they've built a system of shifting blame. It is clear that our membership of the EU allowed politicians to blame other people for mistakes that they made, or to refuse to take responsibility, or to pass the buck onto others. And that's also the problem with the growth of the quangocracy. But I don't think that our EU membership and Brexit has anything to do with our current problems. These are a different category of problems that have always existed and that have just come into the fore over the past few years as the model built up since 1997 has gradually run out of road. I think our politicians of both parties have effectively lied to the electorate. They've said you could have a socialist-style economy with massive increases in public spending every year. They've said you could have a low-growth society, but at the same time keep funding the NHS, the state pension, a massive expanding welfare bill. That system doesn't work anymore. The gap between revenues and spending cannot be bridged. So Britain is facing insolvency because our economic and social model is obsolete. The final comment comes from Mr. Sensible. Give a Rottweiler a nice juicy bone, he'll lick your hand and wag his little tail. Now try and take it off him and you see the problems the government has with unions, civil service, benefit junkies, etc., mostly of their own making. I think the point here is that when you start giving people money, they just want more and more and they will never accept cuts. That is true in many ways, which is why we're stuck with a triple lock, which makes no sense, and we're stuck with all sorts of other benefits which need to be cut in any case. Now, there's a tiny possible silver lining from the looming financial crisis. It is possible that a lot of these barriers, a lot of these lobbies for ever higher spending will not be able to resist the coming austerity, and a crisis might force very radical change. Some of that change will be for the better, but of course a lot of it will be for the worse. You don't make sensible public spending and tax decisions when there's a metaphorical gun to your head and the markets are demanding that you balance your budgets within 2 or 3 days, or else they will stop funding you. That's not really a good way to do things. A much better way to do things is to approach everything rationally and democratically and discuss everything and have general elections and have manifestos and stick to them. We need to change, but we need to do it democratically. That is all we have time for this week. Thank you to all our subscribers for your comments. Keep them coming and we will try and respond to as many of you as possible.